Welcome to Podcast Summaries, where every week we break down powerful ideas from 8 to 10 top podcasts to help you grow, heal, and thrive while saving time. If you find this summary helpful, please subscribe and check out links for more content. Your support keeps this journey going. Here is a rundown on RFK Jr. provides an update on his mission to end skyrocketing autism, and Declassifying Kennedy Files, featuring RFK Jr. by Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson delves into the topic of the Chinese Mafia exploiting rural America to create a drug empire. RFK Jr. responds by highlighting the lack of coverage on this issue by mainstream media, despite its reality. He mentions a new documentary called High Crimes, which explores the Chinese Mafia's takeover of rural America. The documentary reveals shocking details, including the purchase of churches and schools, the manipulation of power boxes to steal electricity, and collusion with Mexican cartels. RFK Jr. notes that one of the drug houses is even located near his own home. He notes that as secretary, he commissioned a study on autism, which aims to provide real science and transparency. RFK Jr. then shares a personal anecdote about the temptation of unhealthy snacks, highlighting the importance of making better choices. The conversation turns to the topic of science and the importance of replication in scientific studies. RFK Jr. notes that replication is a basic precept of science, but it's often not followed in the field of vaccine research. Tucker Carlson agrees, stating that the current system incentivizes cheating and the suppression of dissenting views. He notes that pharmaceutical companies have a significant influence on scientific journals, which can lead to biased research and the suppression of critical views. RFK Jr. then discusses the perverse incentives in the healthcare system, where doctors, hospitals, and insurance companies all profit from keeping people sick. He notes that this system is driven by financial interests, rather than a genuine desire to improve public health. Tucker Carlson agrees, highlighting the need for transparency and accountability in the healthcare system. He notes that most people are not metabolically healthy and are unaware of their health status. Levels offers a comprehensive view of one's health, with clear guidance on how to improve it. Tucker Carlson is exploring the issue of pharmaceutical advertising on television, questioning whether it can be stopped. RFK Jr. responds by highlighting the unique situation in the U.S., where pharmaceutical companies are allowed to advertise directly to consumers, unlike in most other countries. He notes that this practice is not only misleading but also insidious, as it promotes the most expensive versions of drugs, which are often paid for by taxpayers through Medicaid and Medicare. Tucker Carlson delves deeper into the issue, explaining that the pharmaceutical industry is a significant source of revenue for television networks, with up to 75% of advertising revenue coming from pharma companies. He shares a personal anecdote about Roger Ailes, the founder of Fox News, who revealed to him that pharmaceutical advertising was the primary source of revenue for the network. Carlson notes that this creates a conflict of interest, where networks are reluctant to criticize the pharmaceutical industry or allow critical voices to be heard. RFK Jr. emphasizes the need for honesty and transparency in the pharmaceutical industry, particularly when it comes to vaccine safety. He points out that the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, is voluntary and often underreports vaccine injuries. He also notes that the CDC has deliberately derailed studies on vaccine safety, and that the scientific community has been reluctant to publish critical research on the topic. Tucker Carlson discusses the potential connection between vaccines and autism, highlighting the lack of studies on the topic and the need for more research. He notes that the Institute of Medicine has called for more studies on vaccine safety, but these studies have not been conducted. RFK Jr. emphasizes the importance of looking at the data and being honest with the American public about the potential risks and benefits of vaccine. Tucker Carlson assures him that this will change, but notes that the biggest impediment is the lack of a functional system for reporting and addressing vaccine injuries. He also mentions that there's a new version of the COVID vaccine that was recently approved by the FDA, which will undergo real clinical trials, and that everyone who takes it will be part of a clinical trial. RFK Jr. shares that the agreement with the company is that everybody who takes the new vaccine will be part of a clinical trial, which will provide real data. He also mentions that the previous Pfizer vaccine had a higher all-cause mortality rate, with more people dying in the vaccine group than in the placebo group. RFK Jr. notes that the efficacy of the vaccine was also dubious, with only 2 people dying from COVID in the placebo group and 1 person dying from COVID in the vaccine group. Tucker Carlson asks RFK Jr. if he thinks the COVID vaccine killed more people than it saved. RFK Jr. responds that his opinion is irrelevant, but they will make the science available so the public can look at the science. He also mentions that the studies done by his agency were substandard and not designed to answer that question. RFK Jr. also asks if Tucker Carlson is satisfied that mRNA technology is safe for people, and Tucker Carlson says he's not satisfied, but they will be doing those studies. Tucker Carlson explains that there's a lot of skepticism in the agency about mRNA vaccines and that the safety studies simply have not been done. He also mentions that there are enough anecdotal reports of people getting profound injuries that may or may not be associated with mRNA technology. RFK Jr. asks Tucker Carlson about the vaccine board and the firing of eminent scientists on the board. Tucker Carlson explains that the board was an instrument of the industry it was supposed to regulate and that it was corrupt. He mentions that the Office of Inspector General and Congress investigated and said that the board needed to be changed, but nothing was done. Tucker Carlson shares that the board approved vaccines without safety studies, and that the companies that made these products had a lot of influence over the board. He mentions that one of the members of the board, Paula Fitt, had a direct financial interest in the rotavirus vaccine and voted to add it to the schedule. Tucker Carlson shares that Fauci's actions were not driven by public health concerns, but rather by career and economic incentives. He mentions that Fauci's fundees developed a technique to create a virus that could jump to mammals, which could be deadly to humans. He mentions that a truth commission would allow people to testify truthfully and be given immunity from prosecution. RFK Jr. asks Tucker Carlson about the declassification of files related to the murder of his uncle, father, and Martin Luther King. Tucker Carlson responds that nothing has changed and that he still believes that his uncle was killed by a conspiracy. RFK Jr. responds that he's confident President Trump will release anything he has access to, but he doesn't expect anything groundbreaking to come from those documents. He believes that with the evidence they already have, he could win a case in front of a jury. RFK Jr. also mentions that his father's assassination was never investigated, and that was deliberate. RFK Jr. then asks Tucker Carlson what it's like to be back in Washington after being away for so long. Tucker Carlson shares that he didn't expect to love living in Washington, but he's found a community and a neighborhood that he enjoys. He also appreciates the people he's working with at his agency, who are talented and committed. Tucker Carlson also praises President Trump's ability to pick talented people for his cabinet, citing his requirement that each candidate have 3 clips of themselves performing well on TV. He believes that this approach has resulted in a cabinet that is not only good at administration, but also skilled at communicating with the public. Tucker Carlson also notes that President Trump is looking over the horizon and recognizing that the country's current trajectory is unsustainable, and that he's willing to take disruptive actions to address this. RFK Jr. then mentions that YouTube is suppressing his show, and Tucker Carlson suggests that subscribing to their channel and hitting the notification bell can help viewers get around this suppression and access true information. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, check out YouTube channel, and just remember, subscription is only £1 or $1 per month. Leave a comment or review. Until next time, happy listening.